Have you got some great songs but no one is listening? Are you struggling to find your audience? Worry no longer. Go to musiciansmap.org/free-book and download a copy of the free ebook, How to Get Your Music Heard. It talks about growing your fan base, finding your niche and getting your music out there. The essential foundations you need and the steps to take to get your music heard. How to Get Your Music Heard. Get it now at musiciansmap.org/free-book. If you could start by introducing yourself, tell us kind of everything we need to know.
Okay, so my name's Albert Ross. I'm from Yorkshire in the north of England. I've been in New Zealand for 4 years now, so permanent residency coming up in May, so that's good news. And I've got myself a Kiwi son now, which is great. So where did I start with music really? Like, come from a musical family, luckily. My dad played guitar and piano. Grandparents on both sides both played like organ in the church or like piano in the house, Irish descent, so sort of big family gatherings, loads of accordions around and people singing and playing, and never studied music but just always around it, and don't really even remember learning to play. Like I'd say I play piano more than guitar at the moment, and don't really remember learning it, but just always a piano in the house. And both my sisters are the same, they can sort of play it a bit, but none of us read music. It's just that sort of sitting around singing Rare Old Mountain Dew and sort of country and Irish stuff. And and then when I was like 14, 15, started playing the clubs with my dad, working men's clubs in the north of England, pretty grim, lots of fighting on the dance floor. And used to get paid fish and chips and a bottle of Newcastle Brown.
Yeah.
That was
what else do you need?
Well, nothing when you're 15.
Yeah.
And then, started bands at college, and actually the one instrument I did have lessons for was drums, and loved drumming. But then when I started writing songs, I wanted to be able to perform them as well, which is harder. Well, it's not impossible, but harder as a drummer. So started practicing guitar more, and then next thing you know, singer-songwriter type thing.
Yep.
Played in lots of different bands, and then up until now, I'm more of a solo artist, if you like, because I've got kids. It's hard to be in a band and rely on other people, so I'm going to start pushing that more and more this year. And also doing theatre, musical director for theatre shows, which I'm really passionate about, and more options to get my music in media, hopefully. I've got some stuff on TV back in the UK, which is good, and I really want to do more and more of that.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that in a bit if you like as well.
Yeah. Well, at what point did music kind of become your career?
Well, the first time I started getting paid for music was less of as an artist and more as like running workshops and stuff like that. So when I met my wife, she works in theatre and sort of physical theatre, dance and sort of stuff like that. And she'd be doing a lot of workshops. She teaches theatre now and stuff. So I sort of started doing a similar thing, teaching non-musicians through music workshops, like not necessarily how to play an instrument like a traditional lesson, but more like accessing music. One of the best forms of income where I got to play music, but still not as in a performance role, but still like really inspiring, was that I managed to find out about this project where they was working with adults with mental health issues. This is back in the UK. And they wanted a musician to go in and just sing at them, really. And I was like, okay, I'll give it a go. But when I got there, realised that, these people had loads of great ideas and they were really creative. And we sort of, after 2 or 3 sessions singing around Bon Jovi songs or Beatles songs or whatever people requested, I was like, why don't we hand out some notebooks? You guys write some lyrics and we'll make our own songs. And by the end of the year, we'd done a full album, and we recorded it with them, and some of them performed on it. I performed some of the songs where they weren't confident, and we just saw heaps of progress from a personal point of view for them. Some people that had suffered from anxiety and agoraphobia and stuff were starting to open the curtains for the first time in like 5 years and stuff, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, I was just having a laugh really with them and just giving them a gentle nudge. So I did a lot of that sort of work, in the background for a while, which meant that I could do 2 days doing that, and it was nearly a weekly wage. So then I could do 3 or 4 days just writing and recording my own stuff. So even though I wasn't performing, earning money from performing myself like a traditional artist, as a sideline, it was brilliant.
Yeah.
So I was getting heaps of ideas. I was getting really inspired. That's an ace way, I think, for musicians to look at making money.
How old were you when you were doing that?
I've been doing that for about 15 years. So I would have been about 25, something like that. Early 20s when I started doing it. And in the UK, we had a real golden period for it where the government changed and loads of funding came in for the arts just before we moved here. And one of the reasons that coming here was also one of the carrots was the fact that like the Tory government had just sort of slashed all the arts funding in the UK, and we had a lot of friends that were that might identify themselves as disabled, or that might have sort of accessed some of the stuff we were doing and needed a PA, for example, to access it. So it wasn't just about the funding for us to run it, it was their funding to be able to access, to come out and do a workshop.
Sure.
All that was getting cut. So we had people that were something halfway through a project where like it might be like a 6-week long project, and 3 weeks into it, the funding was getting cut and people couldn't have the staff they needed to, because some of them had complex needs. It was just all falling apart, and it was heartbreaking. But yeah, what sort of seemed to happen in England is that they fund the funding for opera and ballet and, you know, these kind of things that, to be honest, you have to be quite middle class or wealthy to access or go to a certain school. And all the hip hop and street art and dance and stuff seemed to be the stuff that was suffering the most. So that kind of bit put an end to a lot of that sort of work we were doing. But I still think it's out there, and you can do it, and you can set it up yourself, and you know, if that's the kind of person you are that feels comfortable doing that. So that's something I'm going to start again this year. And we have a company that we're still running that does that, called Equal Voices Arts. The website, the .com at the end. So yeah, that's the way that I used to earn money. Being a musician, I guess. What are your other options if you're not a signed artist? You know, selling T-shirts, selling CDs. It's going to be difficult to get the bank to give you a mortgage, and if you're just busking and doing small gigs. So if you're starting to get, you know, into your mid to late 30s and you're in a relationship and you don't want to work in a call center and your only skill set is music, you're going to have to start thinking about things. What else? A good way to... Something I was reading about recently is, because I always thought Spotify was impossible to get an income off, but I've been reading about a few things recently, particularly for people that write any instrumental music. There's so many playlists out there now that are getting used in restaurants, hotel lobbies, things like that. I was reading an article about a guy who was getting enough to pay his mortgage off playing just acoustic guitar on Spotify and Pandora. I don't think they have Pandora in New Zealand anymore, but I'm not sure. But yeah, and he was using creative playlisting really. So he was going on Spotify, listening to playlists that were just acoustic guitar, fingerpick style, thing that he kind of did, trying to sort of emulate what was on the playlist already, so it knew it would fit in. And using things like LinkedIn and social media to find out who's actually curating these playlists. Once you're on a playlist like that with 250,000 followers, actually there is some income there from Spotify.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah, and again, something else that I'm really keen to explore myself, because I think anyone that writes songs writes instrumental music as well, because unless you're a cappella, you're usually playing or singing along to something, and it's amazing when you just take your vocals off your track. Sometimes you think, got a nice instrumental piece there.
Yeah, totally.
You know.
And there's a whole world for that. And I know most artists, you know, when they record, will bounce a instrumental version of their song, and that's ripe for some opportunities.
That's something I'm doing at the moment. Like every time you record something, I'm thinking about it from an instrumental point of view, thinking about it from a commercial point of view, from a point of view of would it fit in a film? Would it, you know, would it stand alone as not as a song? And rather than just like taking the vocals off and going, that's instrumental, just taking the whole idea of the song and doing two versions. Like, so for example, a song that I recorded recently, I've just stripped it back to just the piano, and now I'm writing some cello parts for it and going to drop a few sort of orchestral elements into it, and suddenly it's like this really beautiful piece of music that you wouldn't even necessarily listen to the song and listen to that and go, it's the same thing. It's almost like you've taken your own song and deconstructed it, and it's inspired a whole new thing. So like, you should never really be stuck to write music for motion pictures or media to build a library of it, because if you've written 20 songs, within those 20 songs, I'd say there must be 50 pieces of music that could just forget about the song, take an element of, like, whether it's just a chord progression or just the bass line, and start again with it. Don't worry about the arrangement as a song, just use it as a starting point and just run.
Start thinking about where it could be used.
Yeah, because sometimes I'm like, oh, I love that little bit in that song, that little bridge or something. It's like, well, okay, what is that bridge if you take it onto a different instrument, you know?
Yeah.
And I've started doing that a little bit at home recently, and I'm loving it. Like the theatre show we're doing at the moment, I've written all the music for that, and I sort of improvised that live during the show. So it's not a fixed thing, but in the studio now I've started recording it as a fixed thing, but I'm not going to be so precious as to go, but in the show it does this, and in the show it does that. I'm like, well, what's it like just in my speakers and my headphone, and imagining it for, you know, some indie film or something. So hopefully, because I've never really done that properly before, and I've written so much music that's just disappeared into thin air because I've not actually nailed it down and put it in the studio. I've done like maybe 15, 20 theatre shows, and this is the first time I've thought about recording what I've written. Normally I just play the show, and then the show finishes, and
that's it.
And that's it, it's gone.
Oh, man.
Yeah, and that's the way theatre works. It's part of the beauty of theatre. It's ephemeral.
I suppose,
but now I'm like, hang on, if I'd have kept everything I've ever written for theatre and recorded it well, and like I was saying before, not just as is, but actually go in the studio and be creative and make it into more of a thing, then, you know, I might have 200 pieces of music like that, and I can start, rather than looking for publishing to get money, I'll just set up as my own library and let people come to me, you know?
Yeah.
Rather than go, I need to get this song onto someone else's library, so I might be lucky enough to get it in a commercial or a film. You can actually say, well, look, I got 1,000 pieces of instrumental music that are not just this usual shitty background stuff. And the beauty of it is you can bespoke that. So if you contact somebody about commercial music or whatever, you've got a real advantage, because you can say, come to my website, have a look at the things I've written, say there's 1,000 pieces of music on there in different genres, and they go, oh, we really like whatever it is, walking in the park music or whatever it is that's on there. You can go, great, well, send me your visuals and I'll bespoke it, you know, I'll make it fit, rather than what a lot happens these days, which has destroyed a lot of income for musicians, is people go to things like Shutterstock and they've got 100,000 pieces of music, you type in blues, choose some crappy music, and there's an artist getting a royalty somewhere because they've got the music on there, but it's such a lottery. You can't rely on it. And the people that are making the commercial or the film or the TV show or whatever it might be, they end up putting it on and fading it out because it doesn't do what they want at the end. So that's the sort of thing that I'm hoping to build up over the next year or two as a sort of a long-term goal, is just to record everything. Every time I think, oh, I've got an idea, and I put it on my phone to find the time to try and build it up. So I've got a huge library, and I can just say, this is me. Anything you like on here, I can change it for you. I can make it shorter, longer, faster.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's
a good idea.
Yeah, because when I first did some stuff for TV about 7-8 years ago, you got paid really well just for writing it. Like, you know, maybe $2 or $3 grand.
Yeah.
Now it's like people don't want to pay you to write anything, and they just want to go to a website that offers off-the-shelf music.
Yep. You pay a one-off license.
And pay like $20.
Yeah.
And then it's theirs to use what they want. And so you're just hoping that they pick your piece and that they put it on something good, and you might get some royalties that you can buy yourself a coffee with.
And
it's crap. It's crap. I'm sick of people wanting to pay me in exposure.
I know.
It's ridiculous.
Oh, man, it's endless, isn't it?
No, if you got a mortgage, exposure's no good. You can't phone your bank and say, I'm sorry I've defaulted on my mortgage, but the exposure was amazing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You've got to start somewhere, and some levels of exposure might be well worth it, but like it's harder and harder to find people wanting to pay you to actually do those stuff. So I think find a way yourself, and I'm only a quarter of the way there, really, because got some stuff that's still on TV, but that's a little bit by good luck still that it's still on. So I'm still getting a good royalty off that. That's maybe a third of my income if I'm lucky, but the other 2/3 I have to make up doing things that I don't necessarily want to do. So for me, it's about trying to yeah, my ideas are I'll start doing some music workshops again. I'll build up a huge library of music, and I'll start trying to meet with people that are, commissioning media, whether it's commercials, films, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Meet with indie filmmakers, meet with anyone creative that's doing anything visual that might need music, and reach out to them and say, look, I'll write something for you, but if you haven't got the budget for that, here's a bunch of stuff that might inspire you.
Yeah.
And I'll tweak it to your visuals.
I mean, it's being proactive, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, getting out there and making things work for you rather than sitting there and hoping that something comes along, stumbles across something you've done by accident and pays you loads of money for it.
That's right. And I think another thing to bear in mind is like, for me, everything's in-house these days. Like I very rarely go into someone else's studio where I have to pay for something, with the exception of mastering, which I still would get a third party in to do, even though these days I'd usually send it to someone, they'd do it and send it back. I wouldn't actually go into the mastering studio. With the exception of that, I think for musicians that are starting out now, whether you're a singer-songwriter or you were wanting to write for media or do a bit of everything, the more self-sufficient you can get with recording your own stuff with your own laptop and your own microphones and learn to produce and get good at it, not only is it an essential part of the creative process, but like you're bringing those costs down. So like a new band starting out, like when I started out, even like 15, 20 years ago, we'd be paying like $400 or $500 to go in a studio for a day. Well, you're trying to make an income. You need to get your costs right down as well. So you're better off investing in a decent laptop and learning to use it so that you can record your own stuff rather than, I'm not trying to put studios out of business here, and that there is a place for them.
Yeah.
But I think if you're going to try and do demos or try and write music and hopefully make some money because it's been placed in a commercial or something, you don't want to spend $2-3 grand getting there.
Especially when you're talking of the quantity that you're talking about. When you're pumping out loads of music and you've got tons of ideas and you're trying to build up a catalogue, you can't just spend all of your money going on studios.
And you're thinking, I've got 50 tracks and I want to build up a catalogue, so I need a week in a studio. It's going to cost me $2 grand.
Yeah.
And then if you're lucky, one of your tracks gets placed in something, you make $500 and go, shit, I'm $1,500 worse off, and I've done a lot of work. So I think that's just something to bear in mind. There's still a place for these great studios, absolutely, and that's skill set there. But I'm talking about when you're starting out, getting your ideas going, try and be as self-sufficient as possible, so you're not outlaying loads of costs or saving up. I can't afford to record this maybe in 2 months when I've worked, an extra few shifts or got some overtime. Yeah, that's not a great place to be in when you're starting out in an industry where people don't really want to pay for music anymore.
Yeah.
You need your costs to be as low as possible.
Let's talk about you having some stuff on TV.
Yep.
What is it? How did it happen?
Well, for me, it was fortunately for me, bit of luck, but unfortunately for anyone listening, for a secret way into it, it was a little bit lucky. But people say like just play wherever you can and do as many gigs as you can when you're starting out, and that's the ultimate way to get noticed or to do things. You can't just sit in your bedroom sending tracks, emailing tracks to people. Most of them end up in the trash. Whereas someone sees you live or doing something, it's a totally different experience, and you might get something from it. And you could try for years and years. But I was lucky. I was just doing a gig with an electronic duo that I used to be one half of called The Mothers of God. Check it out on YouTube. The Mothers of God, Geraldine's Party is probably the best example. And it's just sort of tongue-in-cheek electro with a little bit of us trying to rap and taking the piss a little bit. And we used to have a big rehearsal studio, big enough to have like a couple of hundred people in there. So we started doing gigs in there. Parties really that just turned into gigs. And there was this Scottish guy in there, and he was hammered, and he was coming up to us afterwards saying, I'll get you guys on TV or something. And
just at a random party, what the year through?
Yeah, I never met him before, and he was really drunk. And very Scottish, so I couldn't understand a lot of what he was saying. Even though my accent's strong, this guy was really strong.
Yeah.
And I gave him my number anyway and didn't think anything of it. And then literally 6 months later, this same guy phoned me. I didn't even remember where from at first. And he was saying, I'm the producer for the Gadget Show on Channel 5 on TV in the UK. Well, we want to talk to you about coming in and doing a feature on iPads and using iPads for music. And I was like, this is so random. But that's sort of how it started out. So I went on the show and talked about iPads, even though I'd never held one in my life.
Did you just do a quick homework or something?
They sent me 2 iPads, loaded up with music software, And when I say they sent me it to the hotel the night before we were filming it for like national TV.
Oh my God.
So I was crapping myself.
Yeah.
So the idea was the two presenters on it were going to both write a theme tune for the show. One was going to do it in a state-of-the-art studio, and the other was going to do it on an iPad.
Yep.
So I was like the mentor for the other presenter to do it on the iPad. Mm-hmm. So it was just really random. Look, he just thought, I saw these guys making electronic music, and he was off his nut, and he really enjoyed it, and it stuck in his head.
Yeah.
So when something came up, he was like, I know a guy to ring. So it really was lucky in some respects, but I suppose if you went out there doing gigs, then that would never happen.
Yeah.
So then what I did is I made sure I forged a relationship with the producer of the TV show and stuff, and you got to sort of just be confident and introduce yourself to everyone in the team and be as charming as possible. And I said to him, look, anything you need writing for this show, I can write and produce for you, and I did the feature on the TV thing. I got paid for that. That was good, and a little royalty off it. But then, a couple of months later, they rang me and said, we're going to be sonically rebranding, as they call it, and we want a new theme tune based on the old one, but different, and all the stings and everything to go with it. And I was like, great. So I just made up a fee because I had no experience.
Yeah.
I should have made up a bigger one, to be fair, I think. I made up a fee that was worth doing for me, and they said, yeah. And then I did it, and then it's been on TV ever since. And every now and then I'll just tweak something for them, or, they'll ask for a certain thing to him. It's really easy because it all revolves around this main theme that I wrote for them. So I'll just like dig out the bass line from that. Like I was saying earlier, I'll deconstruct it and
create a new stab or something.
Yeah, drop a few loops in the back and whatever. Sometimes it'll take me 25 minutes and they'll send it back and they'll go, "This is brilliant."
So was there like a vetting process, or did they have other artists involved? And
this is the thing. Like, this is what it leads me on to, like, because that's a big show. Like, we're talking millions of viewers, and I thought, great, this is my new career now. It's going to be so easy to get more and more work like that, and it wasn't, because unfortunately a lot of long-standing shows or production companies that have got like key shows that they do have a composer that's doing it like I'm doing it for that, and like there'll be someone waiting for me to drown at Manu Bay or something so that they can, it's a bit grim, but so that then they'll need someone else. But if I'm doing a good job for them and I'm keeping them happy, why would they want someone else? So they probably get people approaching, I think they're called North One TV, feel free to email them, saying, look, we're better than this guy and we can do a better job, and but if they're happy, why would they bother?
It's so just a hassle to do it with someone else.
So I went to a lot of, you can find out about conferences and stuff. Like, I haven't done much of that here, but like back in the UK I knew of a few conferences where for example, one's the Children's TV Conference or something, I don't know if that's the official name, but all the people that go there commissioning these programs, kids TV. So there's not really a need for composers to go there, but you sign up and you go along. It costs you like $500 for a ticket or something stupid, but there's a lot of people that are influential there, and you can talk to them. If you're really savvy, you might have some stuff on your laptop to play them that you've been writing, and try and get on that list that they contact when a new show's coming up. But that list is so difficult to get on. I never successfully got on it, but I know people that do. And an interesting story, a guy that I met from going to that conference who does an incredible show called Cloud Babies. It's incredible. I mean, this guy's old school. It's a fully orchestrated soundtrack that runs right through the show. And he writes it with a pencil and paper.
Wow.
Just like with his mind.
Yeah.
And then he sends it to someone in Thailand. I don't know why in Thailand. I think somebody knows there, who scores it all up. And records all the parts, and then they send it back. So he didn't even really do it with an instrument. But this guy's like a little bit Rain Man. He's very, very intelligent, and it's just an absolutely astounding soundtrack. Because I'd had a kid, I was watching the show a lot, so I just looked his name up at the end and found his website, and I emailed him and just said, I just want to let you know this. I'm watching a lot of kids' TV because I just had a kid, and it can be a bit mind-numbing, but I really look forward to Cloud Babies because the music just blows me away.
Yeah.
And he was really touched, and he invited me along to that conference, where you meet people. So it's not like I'm saying go chase up other composers, because they're going to be quite defensive of their little thing. They're not going to say, here's how to get all this work that I could get.
Yep.
Why would anyone do that in a business world, if you like? But still reaching out to people like that, you might end up realising, like he said, are you aware of this children's TV conference? I said, no, of course I'm not. Oh, come along, we'll have a few beers. Yeah. And I met loads of composers there who were all very guarded about the contracts they had, but you still got a little bit of a inroad to how they were working, how they were doing it. And unfortunately, it's not as easy as just saying, I want to be on that list. So when a new show comes, contact me. That part you have to figure out for yourself.
Is it still kind of who you know and creating relationships and meeting people?
I think so, yeah. And when I say people are guarded, you're talking about big money. Like that guy I met with, he wrote the music for 64 Zoolaine, which is like a huge international kids TV show. And when he first wrote the music for that, it got the whole program got shelved, and he never thought anything else of it. He got paid whatever he got paid.
Yep.
And that was that. A couple of years later, he checked his bank balance and was surprised to find 50 grand more than should be in there, like serious money. And he was like, what the hell is this? And it was an enormous royalty payment from 64 Zoolaine that was huge in Japan and America and had been made, and they'd not even contacted him and given him the heads up, really. And it was huge money for him. It was life-changing show for him. And the thing with kids TV, if you can get involved, the show starts and there's music on, and it runs all the way through. Yeah. And with a show like that, it'll be on 2-3 times a day because they're kind of on a loop with kids TV, Monday or Friday. It's just like that show I do, that I can get like a third of my income off that. It's only on once a week for 6 weeks, then it's not on for 3 months, then it's on again once a week.
Okay, can you, without, if you don't want to talk about figures, you don't have to, but can you talk us through kind of how it works? Like, you were paid an upfront fee and then you get royalties, and is it every time the show airs? Is it a set minutes, or what's the...
Yeah, in theory, you're putting your trust in the hands of the people that collect the royalties for you. When I first started getting paid royalties, I was like, how do I know I'm getting it right? I don't know where... You look at your statement and it's insane. It's like when you buy a washing machine and you try and understand the instructions in different languages, and you're like, what the hell's going on here? The statement's not clear, like a lot of statements, and I just had to trust that it was right, really. But what happens is basically the show sends the cue sheets to whoever the royalty collection agency is. In my situation, it's PRS. And they calculate your royalties. So it's different per channel. So, for example, I know the BBC in the UK is the one to be on because you can get something like 48 quid a minute or something, royalties. So, like, if you've got 10 minutes on a show, that's 480 quid royalties whenever it's on. Wow. If that show's on 3 times a day, like for kids programs, and it's on a lot, then you're going to make a lot of money in royalties. Yeah. And you're not really going to care if you got paid to write the music, because the royalty is going to be far more worthwhile for you. Yeah. So, and it's on a sliding scale from there. So, like the stuff I do is on Channel 5. Mostly that's the main series in the UK, which is less than the BBC. I don't know why. I guess it's done on viewers.
Yeah, probably, yeah.
And a big thing for me, I was lucky, the show... Channel 5's not as good as BBC. I don't watch TVS. I don't know what the main channels are, but it's more like a secondary channel. Yep. But luckily, Celebrity Big Brother got really big, and it was made by Channel 5 in the UK, and it was a huge ratings pull for them. And then just by pure luck, they started putting the Gadget show on just before Celebrity Big Brother. My royalties actually went up because of Big Brother, even though I'm nothing to do with it, because the last 10 minutes of the Gadget show was getting more and more viewers because people were like, oh, Big Brother's on in a minute, stick the kettle on, get Channel 5 on.
And they've got the outro credits playing.
Yeah, and the viewers had gone up considerably, and I spoke to the guys at North One TV and said, what's going on, and they said, well, the viewers have gone up because of Celebrity Big Brother, and people are tuning in, like you do, I guess, if your favourite show's on, you tune in half an hour before, get your bag of chips out, or you might, put a cup of tea on, and it... You might not be watching it, but your TV's counting it as a view, obviously, and the royalties go up. So I think, that's where composers are making really good money, is if they're on huge TV shows with huge viewers.
So they pay you per minute. Yes, it's not a say. We air the show once a week, so you get paid this set fee once a week.
It's for example, a nice thing that happened to me is the first thing I did is wrote a theme tune for them. Yep. It's 30, 35 seconds at the beginning, 35 seconds at the end. So I'm getting like a minute's and a bit's royalty, whatever, per show. Then they do this competition in the middle where they give away loads of gadgets. And it's just the presenter just like basically walking around all these gadgets, and it's a bit of an advertisement for the gadgets, I guess, or a remote control helicopter or new TV, and all the time in the background, this piece of music that I wrote is just underneath it.
Yep.
And the whole section's 2 minutes long. So I went from 1 minute on the show, and then suddenly they added the music to the 2 minute prize giveaway section. So I went to 3 minutes on the show. So obviously my royalties tripled.
Yeah.
Because it's...
And then they get more viewers, and so they calculate. So they go, well, this week we had 200,000. Last week we had 100,000.
And I don't think it's variable. Like, you don't see these changes like weekly. You know, you get paid every 3 months, and I guess like if they get more viewers a year later, you might notice it because they've recalculated the rate.
Sure,
for example.
sure.
It's not like an instant thing, which is what takes me back to what I'm saying. I never know what I'm going to get. I might get like a really small royalty because it's not on TV at the moment, and it's on like some German TV station. It's always on somewhere, but the royalties can be so small. So you might just get a couple of $100 and go, oh shit, what's happened to my royalties? But then suddenly you might get like a couple of thousand and go, oh no. So you don't really know, because unless you want to be a full-time job watching your music on a show which I don't even like, you can't really trace it. So you just have to wait and see what happens when you get your royalty statement, and it's either good news or bad news, or usually if it's not a great royalty and it's not what you're expecting, it all catches up the 3 months later when you get paid. I guess it depends when the producers put the cue sheets in and when they get round to paying that, and then so... Like, it'd be great if you had 5 or 6 shows like that, because you'd easily live off it. Easily. I mean, we're not talking about, like, living in a big beach house and... But being a musician and surviving, 3 or 4 shows like that, I think you'd be comfortable to support your family.
Wow.
So for me, that's a bit the holy grail. But unfortunately, things have changed a lot. And I get less and less emails from them asking me for stuff. Probably because they're just getting stuff off the shelf when they need it as well, like anyone else would. Should we phone him and give him $1,000 to write that, or should we just go on Shutterstock and get a $10 piece of music? Oh, I'll just do that for that little section. Because at the end of the day, whoever's holding the purse strings is going to have a job to keep the budget down. And now that these things are available, like music libraries, production companies are going to lean more and more towards it. So that's where it comes into thinking, right, do I set up my own production library, or do I try and get all my music onto some of these really well-known production libraries that do get big contracts, but then you're in line with a lot of other musicians that are on there too? So I've never really done that. I will eventually, if that's the only way to get music on TV, and I'll hope to get lucky, but it's not...
It's more like a lottery.
Yeah, exactly. Wouldn't we all love to be able to know what we had coming in each month and rely upon it? But I think if that's what you need when you're starting out, then you're going to have to do something else as well as play music. So you do something else, but it's also music. So you do theatre as well. Do you want to tell us a bit about that? I'm lucky to have had a little bit of an inroad here because my wife works in theatre. That helps. But like, I guess... What I've noticed since over the years is that, like, when I was younger, there wasn't really not that I was aware of, there wasn't really a college degree or a music course or a university degree in writing music for picture. But now there are, certainly in the UK a lot, and I'm sure there are here in certain universities as well. One of the problems there is that there's less and less work, and now there's more and more people that are fully qualified to write music for screen, whereas... Even as recently as when I first started trying to do stuff like that, like there wasn't really a course for it as such. You just try to do it and meet people and be charming and stuff like that. So it's I guess it's the same with theatre really. Like, I come across people that have done a course in like musical theatre and they're officially musical directors, but I don't really know what they've learned over those years. Hopefully something really worthwhile, but there's only so much work out there still. So what you really need is to introduce yourself to people that make theatre and ask if you can write music for them for the show, and be willing to do it for nothing a couple of times. Just because it's music don't mean you shouldn't do it for nothing a few times, because imagine you want to be a wedding photographer and you go, I'm a wedding photographer, I charge $2,000 for a wedding. Great. Can I see some examples of your work? I haven't got any, you'll be my first.
But I'm trained.
So you're going to risk your big day on that person that you don't know. And you don't know, they might have some good photos, but you're going to want to see a few wedding examples. So I think they have to do a few weddings for free, mates' weddings, whatever. Get a portfolio, great. Same with musical theatre, really. I don't think anyone's going to take you on to do a show that's all that significant and take a punt on you, unless like they've seen you at a gig and go, I really like this person's style or their songs. I wonder if they'd be up for doing stuff like that. So again, introduce yourself, find out who's making exciting theatre at grassroots level and try and get involved with it from the start. I love doing it because most of the shows I've done, I'm performing either off stage, but often on stage, and it's great. What my not selling point, or not that it's unique or something, but what I love to do and what I do well is I watch the action and I follow it live. You know, and that's the way I sell myself to people making shows. You know, like I'll work closely with the director, and I'll also work with the actors to tune them up on things if the show requires them to do a bit of singing or something rhythmical, or you know. So some shows I've done like workshops where I've sort of deconstructed beats, so that I've given like some of the cast are doing what the hi-hats might be doing, and the others are the snare and the bass, and we'll do like a workshop on that, so they've got this rhythm, and then when I'm doing the music, it's locked in, because like they're all thinking I'm on the 1, 2, 3, 4, and the others are thinking we're just on the 3, we're on the 3. And it's not like it's a dance piece, but it's the energy of that you're creating with the music. So sometimes it's great fun, because I'll work closely with the cast and the director, and other times it'll just be like, you know, can you write something for this? We ain't really got much budget, so maybe you could just give us it as a file.
What's your setup like?
On this recent show I'm doing, this is the third time I've used the loop pedal, and I'm really loving it, because I'm a one-man band. Not a big fan of the loop pedal on YouTube. Like, it's just not my cup of tea. You see someone doing Hotel California, and they're layering it up 18 layers of them doing a 12-string guitar solo. And I'm a bit well, that's just... Am I allowed to say wanking off? Yeah,
you can say whatever you want. Yeah.
That's just like wanking off on YouTube. I hate that sort of thing generally, even if it's really good skills, if you like. I just don't see the point of it that much. And I was a bit wary buying one since Ed Sheeran, because I'm not a huge Ed Sheeran fan. As a songwriter, yes, but you know, I don't put him on in the house to do the washing up or anything. And not because of the way he uses it, I think it's brilliant, but like just because people associate with that, he's made it really famous.
Yeah, he has.
You know, people go, "Oh, use a loop pedal like Ed Sheeran."
Yeah.
Not really like Ed Sheeran, but yes, he does use one. So for that association, I was a bit wary of buying one, but I was desperate to do a theatre show where I wasn't just playing piano or just playing drums or just playing guitar, that I could bring all 3 to the table in one go. So it's a perfect instrument for me. So this recent show, I have like an Irish Baran. I have a piano, an acoustic piano if the theatre's got one. Ideally, if not, I bring my digital piano. I have an acoustic guitar, I have an accordion, I have some old antique tea tins that I found in junk shops, because it's set at the start of the First World War, and I'm imagining these soldiers bashing around on there, so I sort of create some loops doing using things like that, and then I've got a few things that I recorded at home working with a violin player, so that I can drop them in as well, so it's not all live looping. You can sort of choose to bring stuff in. It's the perfect thing for wanting to do something like accompany a theatre show but do it as one person. So it's absolutely ideal. So I love it, but I hate the pressure of live looping, because you know, when we've got a decent audience in and it's quite an emotional show and it's very quiet, and then you hit the wrong note, and then the wrong note comes back 10 seconds later, and 10 seconds later. See, I'd have to sort of stop, face it out. It's really awful. It's only happened to me once, thank God, where it's got this ridiculous function where you can tap tempo. And I went to actually bring a loop in, but I actually pressed it twice by accident. So I tried to stop it, and I ended up adjusting the tempo to like drum and bass level. It went to like 160 BPM, and it's supposed to be like 90. So it's like, it was actually a show back in Leeds where I'm from. All my mates and family had come down. But I kept my cool, and people were like, that was interesting, the end where you like went all surreal and it all started phasing and speeding up. It's like, it was good, that one.
Totally on purpose.
Definitely not supposed to do that. So, but yeah, I love that sort of thing. But I'd be equally happy. Like, we've been really lucky. We've done some nice theatres in New Zealand. Did a show in Christchurch last month at a venue called The Piano. And the name gives it away a bit. They've got this Steinway, vintage Steinway grand piano in like brand new condition in there. And a fully acoustic treated auditorium. I was like a kid in a sweet shop.
Nice.
It's amazing.
Nice.
It used to belong to someone called Maurice Till, who's apparently a famous New Zealand classical pianist who passed away in the last 5-10 years or something. And it was his old piano. And I actually got a picture of him up on my iPad to sort of see who he was, because I was like, I'm playing his piano for a week, so I sat on top of the piano and put some mics on, and oh my God, what a piano. I'm not a piano nerd, but...
So when you're using an acoustic piano and percussion and like are you live drums, like acoustic drums?
Yeah,
You've got a lot of mics and you've got a mixing
Yep.
desk and everything that you
And you've
bring
got to
in.
be really careful because if they've got a sound engineer, what I try and do is eliminate them having any involvement. I have a little desk on stage with me so I
Yep.
can control the levels because you don't want them going, I'll just EQ it for that musician on stage and then it all starts feeding back because obviously whatever the audience can hear, your mics can hear. And when you loop in and you're playing A minor and it loops back while you're playing the E minor, then you
Yeah.
get all this discordant stuff going on. So that's what I was saying before. It is putting yourself under a lot of pressure, live
Yeah.
looping in theatre. The other thing is the actors need to know when the mics are live and not, and you need to make sure they're not when they say a line. It's really bad. At the end of this show, the show we're doing at the moment is New Zealand Sign Language, Serbian and English all on stage together. And our Serbian actor shouts out this "Land of the Eagles" at the end. And if I've put my mic on just a bit too early, I've done it in rehearsal a few times, then every 30 seconds during the end, "The Land of the Eagles." And, again, the audience might be like, is that supposed to happen? They don't always know, but no, it's not. So you've got to be really careful that you don't press record. You've got to find the gaps to layer it up. So
Sure.
I like that challenge, but the first few shows, really nervous. Whereas
Yeah.
if you were just playing a piano, you can always just stop or start or cover yourself.
Yeah.
So
And there's no, you're not timed or anything. It's just free.
one of the interesting things about this show is that one of the members of the cast is deaf, and the show I did before, there were 4 deaf actors and 4 hearing actors. So they can't hear what I'm doing, obviously.
Yeah.
But I support what they're doing musically. So that's one of the reasons why I have to do it live, because
Sure.
I follow them rather than traditionally in theatre the actors might be following the music because they can hear it.
Yeah.
It's the other way around, and I love that as well.
Man,
So
that sounds incredible.
yeah, come and see it.
Yeah.
It's going to be on in Hamilton on the 1st and 2nd of March at the Playhouse Academy at the university.
Okay, well, let's wrap it up and let's go over some of the stuff that you're doing so people can find you.
Yep.
So where can
Okay.
people find you and what are you involved in?
Okay, so
currently?
let's just quickly give you the links for the show because that's what we were last talking about. It's the website is equalvoicesarts.com. All the information on there. The show's called Salonika. It's really good. We're going to be in Wellington in a couple of weeks, Auckland at the Fringe Festival. After that, Hamilton on the 1st and 2nd of March.
Yep.
But just check out the website.
Have you got some stuff on YouTube that people can have a look at?
We were just talking about me pouring beer on my laptop last night. You remember?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, there's going to be a trailer for that show
Yep.
going up on our website and YouTube in the next 48 hours, if you lend me your laptop. and, but yeah, and then on YouTube, like for my own stuff as Albert Ross, just look, the thing that I like to direct people to New Zealand, because I shot the video here in Raglan, and it's pretty cool, is
Awesome.
Albert Ross, and type in Albert Ross St. Jude, and you'll find that song. And the video, like I say, is all shot locally here, and I recorded that in the home studio here.
Awesome.
And collaborated with a local violin player and stuff. So have a look at that. And albertross.co.uk is still the website. It's a bit out of date because obviously I haven't changed it since we moved here much, but hence the .co.uk. But
Yep.
I'll probably change that to co.nz if I get my permanent residency.
Yeah. If not,
If I'm never going home, then I better change it.
yeah.
And Facebook is Albert Ross on Facebook. And I've just recently changed my website. I used to be Sycamore Music, which is something from our media stuff, but you can find it on andyduggan.co.uk, which is a name that I compose under. And that website's live, I think, as well. There's some stuff on there. But there's a few pages on it that are under construction still.
Every week I ask my guest to recommend an artist or a band of the week. It can be
Yep.
anyone.
Yep.
Maybe just something you've been listening to recently in the last month or couple
Yep.
of weeks.
The new album from The National. I mean, I'd rather talk about someone really unknown and lo-fi, and those guys are huge right now, but
Yeah.
I just can't get enough of it.
Yep.
It's called Sleep Well Beast. Check it out on Spotify, and if you're lucky enough, I think it's sold out, but we're going to watch them at Villa Maria Winery in February.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it's going to be amazing. I've seen them live
Nice.
a couple of times, and
Nice.
that would be my recommendation. This song's called Memorial Bench, and there is a particularly cool memorial bench at the top of Naranui Beach. I was walking the dog down there last year, and I came across, there's lots of memorial benches with beautiful views up there, but this particular one was all overgrown. So if you were to sit on it, you couldn't see any of the view. I was like, that seems a bit wrong, but you know, it is what it is. And then when I had a look, it was a lad called Hamish Saunders he was like really passionate about the ocean. I googled him. I didn't know all this, and he was from Hamilton, and he was doing some kind of count of seals out in the Tasman Sea, but off the coast of Australia, and he got washed off. And he was about my age, or he would be now, and it just really sort of struck a chord with me. And I sat on his bench and wrote this song, which was nice because I don't do that sort of stuff often. It's not like I'm walking around Raglan doing that. Yeah. It was a bit of a one-off. So it resonates with me whenever I'm up there. And then, funnily enough, the idea for the video is I was going to go up and like do it up, like cut back all the overgrown bushes and just give it a light sand and make it nice and new again. But actually, I just got back from 3 months in the UK, and I went up there to get the first few test shots, and someone had already done it, the council, I presume. So that's cool. But it ruined my idea for a video. So. But yeah, it's not really just about him. It's just it gave me that idea. So anyway, there's the context. Now my body's gone and nobody knows if my soul is real. Everybody knows I've gone somewhere, but they don't know how it feels, or if I'm just some information on a hard drive in the drawer. Pictures of me on my holidays, nothing more, nothing more. Yes, my body's gone, but my family and friends, they still look for me. In dusty churches, dingy bars, and snowy cobbled streets. I wish I could get the message through and let them know that it's alright. Hanging out with Georgie boy and John every night. Yes, my body's gone, but the preacher says my soul is with the sea. But the congregation gathered here don't know quite what to believe. Well, if you're neither young nor old and you're still sitting on the fence, come gaze upon the Tasman Sea from my memorial bench. Yes, my body's gone, but my energy is still alive and well. In the never-ending nights of wild abandon, raised in hell, you can raise your glasses to me and I'll raise mine back to you. One more for the road now to see us through, to see us through upon that long and the lonesome night, to see us through and help to fix some of that emptiness inside. If you're looking for a buzz, remember life is just a ride. And if you're looking for a ghost, I'm sitting here by your side.
This podcast and the website musiciansmap.org is dedicated to sharing knowledge and advice about music and the music industry. It's all about community, honesty, and positive progress. The experiences, stories, and advice shared on the podcast are given freely, with the hope that you can relate to them and benefit from them. If you've found this podcast enjoyable or useful, make sure to check out the Musician's Map ebook and audiobook about building success in music. You'll find it at musiciansmap.org/books, Amazon, and Audible. And buying a copy of the book directly contributes to the continuation of this podcast. There's also a free ebook, How to Get Your Music Heard. Go to musiciansmap.org/free-book to get your copy. If you have a suggestion for the podcast or for the YouTube channel, or you just want to get in touch and say hello, please do so via the Musician's Map Facebook group or by email at kane@musiciansmap.org. Thanks for listening and stay positive.